Well, one thing that was very significant when you read the government press releases, they didn't mention any percentages in terms of increases. They just gave you some numbers. But the increases for the employee, for example, at the maximum level would be 20%, and for the employer, 25%. And funnily enough, for those on the minimum level, it can be as much as 100%, and the self-employed as well will suffer disproportionately. So when you start taking those percentages together with the numbers on an annualized basis, it means employers will have to pay an extra £500 per employee, and employees will have at least £300 less in their pocket than they had before.
By the end of the year?
By the end of the year on an annualized basis. Yeah. So if you're a small business with, say, 10 employees, this is going to cost you another £5,000 a year.
Given that the cost of the pandemic was £227 million as at the end of March, and it'll be probably even more now, perhaps it's not surprising that the government is taking steps to try to balance its books.
Well, look, there are many different ways of balancing the budget, and of course we've got the budget debate coming up in July. What I find surprising is that this measure wasn't announced as part of that budget debate, in which we can have a full discussion as to how to balance the books, because there can be other ways of meeting the costs. And we all know that COVID has been a significant cost on the community for which we've had to borrow. But the government cannot announce things like being 1.3 million over budget on a park, and then announce these kind of increases in social insurance will hit people directly in the pocket. There's no reason why they couldn't do the increase partway through a financial year and give people time to prepare for it. I don't know whether this has just been done on a Thursday afternoon without any consultation, or whether there was wider consultation. I mean, obviously the government doesn't have to consult the opposition, but I would have thought they would have consulted other stakeholders. The last time there was an increase, it was 10%. And that was back in 2018. And even then, that was on the back of another increase in 2017. And at that time, the focus was on Brexit and the cost of this to businesses that were facing the cost of Brexit. We now have Brexit, plus, of course, the effects of business have had, real effects they've had due to COVID, and they're just in the middle of a recovery. I mean, this is a bit like hitting them on the head as they're trying to recover business.
So next month, the Chief Minister will bring the government's financial plan for the coming year to Parliament in the budget session. You've said that this increase in social insurance is not a good omen for that. Why do you say that?
Well, we've already seen some indications of the government's thinking. We've had the postgraduate scholarships being effectively rationed. We've seen entertainment license fees being increased by, they would argue, reasonable amounts, but percentage-wise, they're huge. And you've seen other, what word should I use, tightening of for the financial purse strings. And this is just the beginning. And I would imagine that what will be announced in the budget will be the main event in terms of how the government intends to recover its financial position. But what it cannot do is go around spending money and going over budget and announcing it as if it didn't matter. It does matter when they go over budget, and I hope in future they need to keep an eye on every penny and every pound so that we don't get these surprise increases without any formal consultation, as far as I'm aware.